Hi, I'm Jake Deffinbaugh, and welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, a podcast where me and my friends talk about nostalgic moments and pop culture from our childhoods. We interview people such as actors, producers, composers, puppeteers, and more. We'll be sharing our favorite memories, talk about behind-the-scenes moments, and so much more. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh, and welcome to this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
What's going on, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'm your co-host, Wyatt. I'm not the host, but we have our co-host, Chris Bixby, Matt Bingel, and the guy that messes up the most more than anyone on Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the host himself, Jake Deffinbaugh.
We're good. We're very good.
You're great. You're great.
We're great.
We got an exciting interview. This guy
Yes.
is on the original Fraggle Rock, did some Canadian musicals, Binu on Toopy and Binoo, Bruce the Gorilla on the Mighty Jungle, and he's currently doing Brandon Bear on Miss Persona. Here he is, Mike Petersen. How are you today, Mike?
I'm just fine, thank you. This is a pleasure to speak with you today.
It is. It's a pleasure to speak with you also.
Yes.
The first question, we know who we are. We know who you are.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, I am a Canadian actor, and sometimes I work as a puppeteer. Most of my work is known as a puppeteer. As you said in your introduction, I'm Binu on Toopy and Binoo, and I'm Bruce on the Mighty Jungle. I don't even know if those shows are still playing, but they are on my resume. They are on IMDb for anyone to find out. Currently, I play Brandon Bear on an Emmy-nominated series called Miss Persona that I'm very, very proud of. We're very happy with it.
I've seen a bit of it. It's pretty good.
But before I got into television, I concentrated mostly in live theater, and for that matter, good old-fashioned children's theater. We have a tradition here in Canada where a company of actors will travel across the country in a van and stay in hotels and perform in gymnasiums, school gymnasiums.
Wow.
Now, if you kids, you guys might remember a troupe of actors coming to your gymnasium. Well, that's what I used to do.
Oh, wow.
For years,
Awesome.
I did that kind of work. And it's actually an excellent training ground for any actor because you just...
I bet. I mean, it seems fun.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you first get into like puppetry and acting?
Well, I have to trace that back all the way to my early childhood, watching TV.
Yeah.
We have our own Canadian children's television up here, slightly different from what you guys had. And don't forget, my personal nostalgia stretches all the way back to the 60s. Okay.
Wow.
So while American kids of the 60s are watching Fred Rogers, we up here in Canada were watching Mr. Dress Up, which was the same formula, a human host and his puppet friends. And another Canadian show on at exactly the same time was called The Friendly Giant, and same thing, a human host and his puppet friends. I was a kid riveted to those shows. I actually loved them to the point where I kept on watching them until I was well into my teenage years. My friends were a little bit worried about me. Like, why are you still watching those shows? Little did they know that I was actually doing personal research, and my grandmother noticed that I was watching these shows when I was very young, and she saw me watching these early puppet shows on TV. She made puppets for me, just simple puppets, socks with buttons sewn on for eyes, but it was something for me to put my hand into and to practice along with the characters as I was watching them.
Oh, wow.
So that is where it started. I did my very first show for my very first audience when I was 8 years old in grade 3. And that was a show that my grandmother helped me to design and build. And she sent me to school one day with a cardboard box that was cut in the shape of a castle. And my grade 3 teacher allowed me to perform a show at the front of the class. That was my first audience.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Now, the way it slowly evolved into a professional career, that's a slightly longer story, but I'll just keep it short. I was learning to be an actor at university, and we did sort of an exercise one day. Sometimes we use neutral mask the theory is it will unlock certain things. An actor will learn body language if he can't use his face and so on. And this other time we were using puppets. The theory being, what can audiences see in a puppet, and what can the actors convey when they've got an object in their hands. And that very exercise awakened my early childhood. It awakened all the puppets that my grandmother made for me. That audience was my teachers and my peers at university. So now I'm dealing with a room full of adults. And even then, that room full of adults responded the same way as my class of fellow 8-year-olds in grade 3. Every little move that I made seemed to garner a laugh or a reaction or a gasp. And it really just lit a fire in my guts. I just thought, wow, I must be onto something here. And I was inspired to the point where I actually dropped out of university after that year.
Wow.
My goal was to run away and join the circus, and that's what I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. So who were some of your inspirations?
Well, early on, I was inspired by Judith Lawrence, and I didn't even know that name until many years later.
Yeah.
But she's the performer who played Casey and Finnegan on Mr. Dress Up.
Oh, wow.
I was inspired by early Sesame Street. See, I can remember the very first episode of Sesame Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 1969. I was 7 years old. And I remember really enjoying the Muppets and the wit and the accuracy of those performances. So Jim Henson became an early hero of mine. Even alongside Sesame Street, and before the Muppet Show became so popular, there were these early television specials. I don't know if you guys ever caught wind of these, but I guess we're going back to the late 60s, early 70s. Shows like the Muppet Musicians of Bremen.
No.
Okay.
No, I've never heard of it.
I've seen them.
Yeah, have you seen those?
Matt's the biggest Muppet fan of all.
Really good.
Okay, so that's ancient history now. They were actually made in Canada way back in the day. That's why Jim Henson had a relationship with the CBC in Canada, was that he came here and used CBC studios, a CBC camera crew, and he brought all his puppeteers up with him, people who he was working with on Sesame Street and the Muppet Show, these early CBC specials, Muppet Musicians of Bremen and Cinderella and shows like that.
Yeah.
And I remember really, really loving those. So I guess those were my earliest inspirations, Jim Henson and some of the early Canadian puppeteers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Then later on, you got to work with him on Labyrinth and Fraggle Rock.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a lucky time for all concerned. And it was kind of the same as those early CBC specials.
Yeah.
Jim Henson came to Canada. He already had a relationship with Canadian crew and Canadian studios.
Yeah.
And so it was a CBC Jim Henson co-production.
Yeah.
He brought his main cadre of performers up from New York. They were housed here in Toronto for 4 years to perform the main Fraggles. But the deal was, Jim, you gotta hire some local Canadian talent. You gotta do it.
Yeah.
So in addition to the camera crew, which came with the studio space, they also agreed to cast out auditions for what they called background puppeteers.
Yeah.
And so there we were. And how lucky for us that we could literally rub elbows with these guys for that period of time. We were Fraggles for crowd scenes. Yeah. We were anonymous doozers walking around. We were rock creatures crawling on the rocks. And every once in a while we'd get what's called an upgrade, where we'd have like a line to speak. And that was always very thrilling, because it's like, we're going to walk by and we'll go, "Hi, Gobo, how's it going?" And that's the end of our performance. Yeah. These are thrilling opportunities. And we learned a lot. And another part of the idea with all of that, in addition to being hired and having a job, was that this was kind of an apprenticeship. Yeah. We are learning from the best puppeteers in the world. And we knew that. We knew that we were in a very privileged position.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of Fraggle Rock, have you seen the new one? And if not, have you heard it's back?
I've heard that it's back, and I know that they again came to Canada. It wasn't Toronto this time, though. It was Calgary, and almost the same model as before, where the main Fraggles were Americans up from the States. Yeah, and again they cast a net out to Canadians for the background parts. They passed me by this time, but that's okay. I understand why they did it.
It's pretty good.
There's a whole new generation of eager young performers.
Yeah,
which is exactly what we all were 40 years ago.
Exactly.
So of course, we're gonna. It's their turn now, and I'm very thrilled for anyone who had the opportunity to be there.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
For that matter, the main guys all had to be mostly replaced because. Well, Jim has passed away, of course, all this time later.
And Jerry
Nelson, who was Gobo, he's gone. Steve Whitmire is no longer with Henson Associates, and I don't know all the juice.
John Tartaglia.
That's something.
John Tartaglia has done a great job with Gobo.
Yes.
Amazing.
Definitely did.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, good. I'll have to try and watch it then for sure.
It's good.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So we kind of talked a little bit about Fraggle Rock and how that came about. Do you have a favorite episode or song?
Good question. I'm really quite fond of I can't remember the title offhand, but if you know the show really well, there's one episode where
Matt does.
Well, okay.
Matt even has the book. Matt has the book. Matt, show the book.
Yeah, it's back here. Actually, I have two.
Yeah, Matt has two of the books.
The main important one. There's this one that came out was about a year ago. It's the Ultimate Visual History. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, look at that.
Let me get a close look. Yeah, it's a whole bunch. It's basically a history, and it's got all these beautiful pictures and behind the scenes. I can't really find a good example at the moment, but it's very beautiful. To anyone who's a fan of the Fraggles, definitely it's definitely a read. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, that looks great. I didn't even know that book existed.
Yeah, it's been out for like a year. I think it's been out for like a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's an episode from either the third season or the fourth season, where Wembley gets superpowers and he can fly.
Yes, that's
right.
Yes,
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
One of the really important things that the writers were always intent upon was that the stories weren't just stories. They were always a way to illuminate one of the characters or to teach the characters something about social harmony and how we can get along with people. So there's always a subtext to any Fraggle Rock story. Now, Wembley is always the bumbling one. He's a little bit confused. He's a little bit unsure. He's always trying to wemble from one decision to another. And so for him to gain a superpower, this is a big deal for him. And his particular superpower this episode was that he could fly.
Oh wow!
Now this episode sort of sticks out of my memory because I felt a real kinship with Steve Whitmire, and I do believe it was mutual. He actually said to me more than once, "Mike, you remind me of me," because apparently when I first showed up on the set of Fraggle Rock, I was so awestruck. My eyes were so wide, and I was just so wonderstruck by the whole experience. That's what Steve was like apparently when he first started with the Muppets. So.
Oh wow!
Steve now, sometimes the main Fraggle guys would ask for an assistant. I don't know if you know how these Muppets work, but there's a hand inside moving the mouth.
Yeah.
Usually another one rod for a puppet, and sometimes a puppeteer will ask for an assistant to stand over here on this side and just help out by keeping the other arm alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jerry Nelson would always ask for Gord Robertson. They sort of were
yes.
And Dave Goles would always ask for Bob Stutt because they became sort of simpatico that way. Well, increasingly as the seasons went on, Steve Whitmire used to ask for me. It was really quite an honor, and I felt honored every time I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode where Wembley can fly.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted Wembley's arms to be out and sort of coasting like an airplane like this, and or swimming sometimes, or banking turns like Christopher Reeve would do in the Superman movie. And together we would choreograph what those moves were, and how it would turn with the background and the camera work, and how Wembley would fly. So if you watch that episode now and you see Wembley flying, just know that those are my arms.
Oh wow!
Wow.
That is awesome.
That's awesome.
Jake, how about you ask a question?
Well, are you still able to do the voices of your Fraggle Rock characters?
Well, actually, I didn't have any. I was a background performer doing anonymous voiceless creatures, except there were two that I did. And again, these were just background guys with like one or two lines. Fergus, was one of my characters. He was in the audience, I guess the gathered crowd, the audience will say, of a Fraggle hockey type game. And he was a sort of a bucktooth character. And I think he just sort of said, hey, this is a fun game, I think. Well, how about you? I think just kind of like that. I can barely remember doing that. And I also remember Pedley.
Pedley, yes.
Yeah, now he had a magic, he was an artist. And there was a magic paintbrush that Moki found that allowed her to paint just as well as Pedley could.
Wow.
And I put Pedley way up here. Oh, look at the magnificent artwork. And I think I might have done
Bailiff
Doozer. Oh, Bailiff Doozer, that's right. And I think my Bailiff Doozer was down around here somewhere. Yeah. Guys, this is 40 years ago.
That's awesome.
So before we get to the show, Jake, you want to talk about? There's a question. I'm kind of curious. I saw this on your IMDb page. I'm dying to know. Did you work on the show Wilbur? Because it says you're the background puppeteer on that show on IMDb.
Yeah, well, Wilbur. First of all, there might be a few shows that are called Wilbur. Ironically,
I love Wilbur. Wilbur's amazing. I grew up on that show.
Well, can you describe which one? Because it might be
Wilbur the cow.
Wilbur the cow. That's right. Yep. Oh, good. Okay, so you do remember it. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah, Wilbur the cow, and there was a rooster and a and a duck.
Yeah, and a lamb.
So now, the lamb. Yeah, and a lamb. Oh, well. Okay. Well, this is neat. You are the first people who I've ever met who remember that show.
Wow. That's crazy.
I'm serious. Awesome. I thought that it just came and went and disappeared.
It's still on YouTube. Wow. It's on YouTube now. Somebody.
You're lucky, Wyatt.
Okay.
I'm lucky. Wow.
There were 12 puppeteers who worked on that show. 3 puppeteers per character. Okay.
Wow.
There's something coming into the back. So, for instance, I'm the duck's feet. Just so you know. Okay. Full disclosure. I'm the duck's feet. My friend Tim Gosley is in the back of Dash's head, and she's that's how the mouth opens and closes. Yeah. And he's also the one in charge of her body, sort of, so that the body and the head can move together. Wendy Welch, another Canadian puppeteer, she's the wings of Dash of the Duck. So she's in behind, putting her hands into these soft wings. And I'm down here underneath both of them with my fingers on tiny little rods that come out of the heels of the duck's feet. So I am the duck's feet.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and all 4 of those puppets each had 3 puppeteers. And we were performing in front of blue screen. In front of blue everything. We're dressed completely in blue. The room was completely blue. And even if you see a character sitting on a fence post or something, that fence post was a fat blue tube.
Oh wow.
And later the computer replaces all of that blue with a barnyard setting.
Yeah.
Wow. Now the evolution of the technology for Wilbur was that the replacing of the scenery was not done in post-production. It was done in real time as we were watching it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and sometimes like we're looking at our monitors, which is how a puppeteer frames their performance. They're looking at a monitor and that's how they gauge their work.
Yeah.
We look at the monitor and we can see this barnyard setting, even though the room around us is all blue.
Yeah.
The awkward thing about how early we were in this technology was that sometimes the computer generating it would crash.
Oh wow!
And so we would have to reboot the computer. Sometimes we would have to, and mind you, we're in Toronto, right? So the proprietors of this software were still in LA, I think, and we would have to make emergency phone calls to the tech support in LA to reboot our scenery.
That's funny.
I bet. That's funny.
I can imagine how much of a challenge that probably was for everyone.
Oh man,
we need it aired on Discovery Kids here in the U.S. is how I found out about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Is it well liked? Is it a good show?
Yeah, it's a good show.
It was a good show. I think correct me if why it wasn't that like something that would air like in between shows or or some
Oh.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but so I know like Wyatt mentioned, Jakey wanted to ask about a certain show that you did
that aired on Sprout in the US.
Yeah, that aired on Sprout.
What show is that, Jakey? Oh, of course, Matt, you take over. Matt, you went in when you're asking.
No, wow, nice timing. I was actually looking through this book trying to find behind the scenes. There's this one dated 1982. I want to show this.
Oh wow!
These are just one of the fascinating photos. There's Richard Hunt right here. Not all the Fraggles right there.
Yeah, Richard Hunt.
One of the many beautiful photos from this book. It's really amazing.
Jakey's back. Jakey, you were supposed to ask a question.
Wow.
So anyway, Jake has a question about a certain Sprout show that you worked on.
Yes.
Or a show that aired on Sprout.
Yes, I remembered so much. So what was it like to work on a Mighty Jungle?
Yeah.
Oh, I just love the Mighty Jungle. It's actually one of my favorite things I have ever done.
That's awesome.
Was shot in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And exported afterwards, not only to CBC here in Canada, but also I think it was on Treehouse for a little while and Sprout down in the States.
Yeah.
We loved that show because it was only 11 minutes long each episode. And the writers treated the comedy as seriously as they possibly could, by which I mean it was a sitcom for preschoolers.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that the audience is 3 and 4 years old, but we're serving them up as sophisticated comedy as we can. Bruce and Babu are the Abbott and Costello of the jungle.
Yeah.
And Rhonda Rhino is their foil. And there's going to be a beginning and a middle and an end. And the whole caveat of the kids telling stories meant that the writers had to find little sound bites of these kids that were interviewed way in advance, find these little sound bites and stitch together a script and then create a story out of that. But there we were, Frank Meshkalite, Wendy Welch and I on the floor creating comedy as best we can. And it's to this day, Bruce the Gorilla is one of my favorite characters of all time.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Awesome.
And I know we reached out to Frank about being on here, but he declined it, saying they doesn't want to reveal something. I think is what it was.
Yeah, Frank's very private guy.
Yeah,
and he just wishes to remain anonymous.
Yeah, that's completely fine.
Completely understandable.
Matt, how about you ask a question? You haven't asked one.
No, I haven't.
Actually, Matt, how about you wait a bit? There's questions coming up. 2 questions you should ask coming up.
You know what?
We can ask the next one. You can ask the next one.
Go ahead and ask the next one.
Let's see. There's another show that you worked on called Toopy and Binoo. How'd you win the role of Binu?
Well, it was. Now that's a puppet show based on a cartoon, which was based on a book, a French Canadian book, Toopy and Binoo, that was later a cartoon. And Frank Meshkalite is and always has been the voice of Toopy.
Yeah. Right.
And he loved performing that so much that when they stopped producing the cartoon, he couldn't. It's like he couldn't give the character up. He was just to keep it going.
Wow.
And his idea was to create a puppet show out of it. Puppets that so closely resembled the animated versions that you'd almost think that this was a 3D upgrade. That was kind of the goal. And I was flattered that Frank invited me to perform Binu. The lovely thing about Binu is that he is mute. He does not speak. He has no voice. He has no lines. But Binu is a very important sort of a cipher for the audience.
Yeah.
The kids really relate to Binu. Binu's the one who loves Toopy, loves to follow him around.
Yep.
And he's the one who will turn to camera sometimes with, it's almost like he has a wink, wink, nudge, nudge relationship with the audience, as if to say, can you believe this guy? But effectively, it's like, look at the fun we're having. And so my job was to follow Toopy around and turn the camera into every once in a while and crack a smile and then continue on the adventure.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know Jakey wants to know, back to My Jungle, are you still able to do the voice of Bruce the gorilla?
Oh, you bet. Yeah. I wanted to come down from what Frank was doing.
That's
awesome. Frank put Babu sort of up here in this kind of a range.
Yeah.
And so we needed a contrast to that if this is going to be Abbott and Costello. And so I brought Bruce all the way down here.
There you go.
And I still remember the very first read through, sitting around the table on day one of shooting. One of Bruce's lines was, "Oh, I didn't think I counted," and the next part of that scripted line was "ha ha ha," meaning the character laughs.
Yeah.
Now, one of the first things that an actor learns way back in drama school when you're a kid is that you see "ha ha ha" in a script. That's actor's choice. Yes, you're supposed to laugh, but you choose how to laugh and you choose why you're laughing.
Yeah.
So I'm a gorilla. I'm a big friendly gorilla. I saw the words "ha ha ha," but wait, what came out of my mouth instead was, "Oh, I didn't think I counted."
That's awesome.
And actually, my inspiration for that was Andy Serkis's performance as King Kong.
Oh, wow.
King Kong. I don't know if you remember, but there's a sequence on the cliffside where Naomi Watts is doing this mime vaudeville thing to entertain Kong.
Yeah.
And Kong knocks her cane out from under her and she falls down. And Kong kind of laughs at that. That was what happened with Bruce's laugh. He's
wow. I'm kind of wondering about this, but do you still keep in touch with anyone who works on that show?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Frank and I are good friends to this day. Wendy Welsh and I are still good friends to this day.
Wendy would be cool to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah. If you guys want to talk to Wendy, I'm sure she'd be.
I just have to find her contact info. I'll check with her and see if she's willing. She might be the same as Frank. She might be intensely private. You just let me know through email.
Right.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Okay.
Right. So we also talk about a little bit about your favorite episode of Fraggle Rock. Do you also have a favorite episode in My Jungle?
Oh boy, yeah. I can't remember the name of this episode, and I can't remember the particulars of the story. But there is one episode where Bruce has a song. Oh, I love to be a gorilla.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes.
And I do
remember
remember that quite a bit. There's an episode where Bruce and Babu climb a beanstalk and end up in the clouds, and they find a castle made of ice cream.
Yeah.
And they sing a song about ice cream.
Yeah.
Wow.
I quite like that one. There's Bruce and Babu become superheroes at one point.
Yeah.
I quite remember that one. I love.
It's been a while since I watched that show, so I actually watched the first episode earlier today, so I can get back to it. Not sure,
Yeah.
Is it playing down there in the States?
On TV, I don't think so anymore, but there's a couple episodes on YouTube, but no, I don't think it's playing anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, how about you ask the next one? Speaking of My Jungle, because I know you wanted to know this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are any of the Mighty Jungle puppets still around?
Yes, they are. They're in the care of their original designer, a local puppeteer whose name is Jason Hopley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I remember asking Jason one time if I could please have Bruce just for my own archive. I've got a shelf of a few things, and it's not like I want to exploit him or anything. I just want to have him and he'd have a loving home here. Strangely enough, I never heard back.
Yeah.
Which, for those who are watching and listening, Jason Hopley, for all you Disney fans, did in the Ooh and Ah
Yeah.
Yes.
Where it's on Playhouse Disney.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you touched on him a bit. How did Branded Bear come about?
That is due to a relationship that I developed with a young filmmaking student.
Yeah.
Who's no longer a young filmmaking student. He's now a full-fledged television producer. When I first met him, Brandon Lane was a student at Ryerson here in Toronto, and he was very ambitious. He decided to mount a puppet TV show as his thesis production.
Yeah.
And he auditioned local puppeteers, and we all auditioned for the part of Alfredo Tomato.
Oh wow!
And I got the part of Alfredo Tomato.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, by the way, I can't pay you or anything, but if you'd like to make more Alfredo, we'd love to have you. Yeah. So we made like 6 or 7 episodes of Alfredo Tomato, and there was never any money in the mix at all. And I didn't really want any. I was just having fun with these guys, a group of young students, ambitious and fun to be with. And they liked me. They really, really liked me. So it was kind of neat.
Awesome.
Years later, Brandon is the executive producer of a preschool series that has a full green light and a full production value, including money to pay the talent. And he and his now wife, Kimberly Persona, needed a yellow teddy bear to be the best friend of Miss Persona.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And,
there you go.
And so it was me after all those years. They remembered me.
He's awesome.
Wow.
It is the honor
crazy.
of my life. It is my favorite show.
It's amazing.
Oh,
I've seen a clip of it yesterday, and it's just awesome.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. Matt, since you're the biggest fan of this musical out of anybody, how about you ask the next question?
Okay. I finally get to
the
answer
book
the
if you
question.
want to, because I know
It's
you have
about time. Oh, gee, thanks. Gee,
just
thanks
to
a
make
lot.
it just so he knows what we're talking about.
It's a question about
It's
a
over
certain
here.
musical that you were credited for.
Credited for that being the Canadian version of Avenue Q.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. You're credited on the Muppet Wiki.
Yeah. Well, the very first Canadian production of are you all dressed up there as
That's a co-host,
Hi.
Marty Monster.
Marty Monster, yep.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Your fur matches your book.
Yes.
I wish I wrote this book. But
It has the whole script in there and everything.
yeah, it's got the entire script in here. How did that come to be about for a Canadian production?
Yeah. Well, do you know the basic history of Avenue Q? How it started off Broadway?
Off Broadway and then Broadway.
And then Broadway, exactly. Well, it took a little while, but it eventually started to happen that they would sublicense productions outwards to other people. So now even high schools are doing it sometimes.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You know, and that was a long time coming, and it was inevitable, of course. But it did eventually happen, and the very first Canadian production was almost exactly 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
A theater company here called Lower Ossington Theater, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. They're literally a casualty of the pandemic. But back when they did exist, they used to employ eager young triple threats. Do you know that expression, triple threat?
Yeah.
In musical theater circles, a triple threat is someone who can act and sing and dance.
Yeah.
Right.
So
wow.
That's right. These triple threats, and this is a company of triple threats. So they're doing a lot of musicals all the time. They're doing Beauty and the Beast and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you name it, they're doing it. And the very first Canadian production of Avenue Q was with this group of young triple threats. But now they needed to be quadruple threats. They can already act, they can already sing, and they can already dance, but none of them had ever had a puppet on their hands before.
Oh, wow.
So they reached out to me and said, can you teach us puppetry? And I'd never taught puppetry before.
Yeah.
It's almost like I had to teach myself how to teach.
Yeah.
And in so doing, I really was able to sort of strip basic Muppetry down to its essentials and train this group of musical theater performers what it is to have a puppet on your hands. And so that's how that came about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So like any specific fun experiences from performing in Avenue Q?
Well, I actually didn't perform in Avenue Q. I taught the performers.
Yeah.
Here's an anecdote from the very first production, actually. The night after the opening of Avenue Q here in Toronto, the actor playing, I won't even identify the actor, actually. It's no names. But one of the actors blew out his voice.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And was unable to perform vocally. They could still move around and flap the mouth of the puppet as they needed to, but there would be no voice coming out.
Yeah.
And so we enlisted the aid of a local musical theater fan who knew the show inside and out to come in, sit in the orchestra pit with the orchestra in front of a microphone and perfectly sync that character's voices into the microphone in real time. And nobody knew the difference.
Wow. That is crazy. That's crazy.
Wow.
It's also kind of cool that you worked on Labyrinth.
Yeah.
As a goblin.
Yeah. That was really neat.
I bet.
There was one day on the set of Fraggle Rock. We used to begin each week with a table read where we sit and two scripts usually of the day, and there we are and start to work. And Jim was only in Toronto a few times. Like he would come up sometimes from New York, visit us, direct an episode here and there, perform as Cantus the Fraggle sometimes.
Yes.
On this particular Monday morning, he was at the head of the table and he was presiding over the read through. And he began that meeting by announcing that he was very excited about his plans for Labyrinth, and they had just secured the involvement of George Lucas as executive producer.
Yes, which must have been huge.
This was 1985, and I'm a Star Wars kid from 1977.
Oh, wow.
So when he said the words George Lucas, I got all sparkly and all oogly boogly, and I was quietly freaking out to the point where I actually bounced up to him in the hallway after that meeting, and I said, Jim, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'd love to work on Labyrinth. I was just so unbridled that he actually took me up on that. And he invited me to
That's crazy.
Be a background. Now, it was the same gig as Fraggle Rock. I'm a background puppeteer performing in a crowd scene. And my particular scene is Dance the Magic Dance, Jump the Magic Jump.
Yeah.
Do you know that scene? So David Bowie's sitting in the room and he's got the crying baby and goblins all over the place.
Yeah.
It's mayhem and it's laughter and it's chaos. And then they slowly start singing that song. Well, I am one of the goblins sitting on the wall. That was my job.
Oh, wow.
It took a month to do that job.
Wow.
You don't hear
awesome.
that every day.
Yeah.
You haven't asked much questions. Go ahead and ask another one.
What is the most challenging part about puppeteering and acting?
That's a good question. I think that acting has its own challenges. You learn to tap into your own truth, and you learn to respect the writer's words, and then you learn to speak those words as you behave truthfully. And that's exactly. People study this for years. With puppeteers, you're still acting.
Yeah.
You are still respecting the writer's words, and you're still tapping into your own truth. But now you have the added technical complication of how can I make this object convey what I wish?
Yeah.
So, and again, that's years of study that goes into that. There are some people who do it instinctually. They just pick a thing up and all of a sudden it's alive and you can see it with your own eyes. There are also others who it's never an instinct, and you can see that with your own eyes too. And unfortunately with those people, it never will be. It kind of never will be. Yeah. And you know that.
Right.
Yes.
It's kind of it's awesome. Me and Jakey and Chris are actually beginner puppeteers. Me and Jakey started last year, and Chris started a long time ago with Whatnot.
Yeah, with the Muppet Whatnot. Yeah,
he inspired him. I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the projects you've done over the years. Can you share any projects you're working on now?
Yes, I can actually. I've got three things. I've got three things I can briefly touch on.
Nice.
I just wrapped a show at Young People's Theatre here in Toronto.
Yeah.
We call it YPT.
Yeah.
It's a theater dedicated to performances for young people, not by young people, for young people. So these are professional actors, professional designers, artists working at the peak of their powers, but the audience is kids.
Yeah.
It's something I'm very proud of. And Canada, well, I think maybe all of North America takes that kind of work very seriously. We just did a show called Russell's World. And mind you, we're still in the midst of this pandemic where social distancing is very important. And it's very difficult for audiences to gather. In fact, we actually haven't started doing that yet. We rehearsed Russell's World.
Yeah.
Not for an audience. We rehearsed it just as if it's a show and just as if it's a performance, but there was no audience present at any time. We rehearsed it for cameras instead. We performed it 3 times for 3 different angles, and then had 2 days devoted to close-ups and inserts. And then they edited it just like a TV show. So it is going to look like a play on TV, but it's going to be lit and designed and edited, in my opinion, very artfully. And I'm very, very proud of it, actually. Russell's World. I think pay on demand. If you go to youngpeoplestheatre.ca, you can probably find it there. The next thing I'm working on is a TV series in Ottawa. And this is an independent project, destined, I believe, for YouTube, streaming in some way. My friend Matt Fickner is the mastermind behind it. It's called Fernsby's Cryptid Critter Control. I don't think this is Googleable yet, but if you go to mattficknerproductions.com, he's probably got all kinds of photos of this thing already. Basically, it's there's no humans in the show. Everyone's a puppet. It's Ghostbusters for monsters, basically.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And,
right up my
alley. 3 characters. Joe, his nephew Toobin, and I play the third stooge, Rusty the Robot. With these bumbling characters whose job it is to go and rid the neighborhood of pesky critters.
Wow. That's awesome.
And after that, I go to Shaw Festival Theatre, which is near Niagara Falls here in Canada, to mount a tabletop puppet show all about the history of Niagara. Have you ever heard of tabletop puppetry before?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Not really.
It's unlike television, very unlike television, actually. The convention is that the puppeteers are fully visible. We're not hiding behind anything or under anything. We're performing our puppets in front of us on a tabletop, literally, and the audience learns to dismiss our existence. If we can bring our puppets to life in our hands with enough focus and enough attention, the audience will dismiss our existence and just focus on the puppets. So it's almost like this living diorama in front of us that we animate as we go along. And that's a show I'm actually quite proud of. And it's a remount. We did it last year and we're doing it again this year. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Matt, I feel like you should ask this the Mount since you've answered this a lot of times.
Yeah,
you never asked this since you answered. I just realized that.
Yeah, I've had to ask this. I've had to answer this question
5 times,
like 5 times out of the last 10 episodes. You poor soul,
Jakey. Blame Jakey.
That's the
new thing. Whenever something goes wrong, it's hashtag blame Jakey.
Yeah, we just blame Jakey. Is there any advice you'd like to give to someone who wants to get into either acting or puppeteering?
It might be different in the States than it is up here in Canada.
Yeah.
But I'll assume that it's approximately the same landscape. In this day and age, with all the tools that are available to us, the best way to get started is to just get started. Yeah. You want to create a show, you can do it. You've got your phone, you've got your camera, you've got a YouTube channel. Upload something and see what kind of an audience you get. And if it's live theater you want to do, off Broadway means anything, and invite your friends to watch and then see what happens.
There you go.
Great advice. Yes.
That is my advice.
That is great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great advice. So, do you have anything you'd like to say to fans of your work?
Oh, wow. I would like to say how pleased I am that there are fans of my work. Thanks everybody. I'm really quite it's gratifying to learn that people still remember Wilbur and the Mighty Jungle, and that there's an audience for Miss Persona. I'm just so glad that our work is out there in the world, and that you all are appreciating it. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
No matter how long it lasted, the last episode.
Yeah. It's still going, Jakey.
We're still talking about it.
That's right. You know? That's right.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So if people want to contact you, where can people find you?
I have a website. Actually.
Yeah, that's I found him.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's themikepetersen.ca, I think is what it is. And you have to spell Petersen correctly, or else it won't work. Petersen.
Yes.
So check out my website there. That's got all my news and almost everything. And I think that there's a anti-bot version of my email address. Yeah.
Boy.
Your website is going to be in the description down below, so people can check out your website.
Yep.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. Okay. So I guess I'll finish this off. Since we're close to wrapping up, I guess the last question to ask is, since this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, I was wondering, when you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or what defines nostalgia to you?
Wow, that's a great question, because I've actually been thinking about nostalgia lately.
Oh, wow. First person to say that.
Well, let me preface this by saying that, do you know the classical definition of nostalgia?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's many definitions.
Okay.
Yeah.
It used to be considered. It used to be considered a malady. It used to be a melancholy. Is synonymous with melancholy, an impossible yearning for the past. Now, the definition in popular usage has evolved since then. It's no longer considered a bad thing. Nostalgia is now considered a good thing. It's just all about happy memories. Happy memories from the past.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my nostalgia, like I was saying before, goes all the way back to the 60s.
Yeah.
I just love remembering things from my childhood, and especially pop culture. Pop culture is fairly new in the history of the world. But, if I'm going to stretch back and remember the New Adventures of Superman or H.R. Puffin stuff. Or Gilligan's Island. I'm a huge Gilligan's Island fan. If I'm going to stretch my nostalgia muscle all the way back to the original Star Trek series, the summer of 1977, which was the release of Star Wars upon the world, that's my nostalgia. I love
almost 50 years ago.
Absorbing that into my soul and just remembering it with as much fondness as I have. And I still do. I still have a fondness for all that stuff. And it doesn't have to be pop culture necessarily, or TV or movies. Right. I get nostalgic for Lego.
Yeah. There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all got our thing. We've all got that thing that is from our past that makes us happy. And I guess that's what nostalgia really is.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much.
It has absolutely been a blast.
So I'm just going to ask you this. Would you come back to the podcast in the future?
Sure, I would. Yeah.
There you go.
If you're going to get someone back from Mighty Jungle or
Wendy.
In general, you might
have completely exhausted anything that I have to offer, but if you want to have me back, sure, I'll come back.
Yeah, we'll just talk nostalgia next time. There's so much nostalgia that we can talk about.
Yeah.
How about you end it off?
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mike, for you being part of our childhood. And I'm glad for us knowing what you do. Keep up the great work. And see what's next from you. And you're worth it.
It means so much to you guys. It really, really does. And I'm
very welcome.
I'm honored to spend this time with you.
Yes, for sure.
So much. I appreciate it.
Fantastic.
And Matt, close us out. There you go.
Really? I was about to say, you better not do it the way Jakey did. No, it's
We're back at it. I'm just kidding.
Long story.
Long story.
That's our top 5 Jakey moment.
Yeah, that'll be coming.
Now, since I still have you guys here, I've seen this orange guy say a few things. This blue guy now, can I see him say a few things?
Are you talking about puppetry?
Which one? Oh,
there's two blue people.
The blue guy with the orange hair.
Yeah, hello.
Chris.
My name's Puppet Chris. I know, basic name, but
Mortimer's over there. There's Bean. Bean's the green guy right there.
Bean's the green one up there. Hi, Bean.
Hi, Bean.
Oh, we're getting puppets out.
Yeah, I was going to say you better get yours out.
Wait, hold on. There's a certain snoof missing.
Oh yeah. Your turn, Julius. Oh, it's about time. I'm coming. Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marty. Had to
a lot of puppets.
Yeah. These are the only two I
this
have.
outro.
I'll have another one soon.
And like Matt said earlier, he's building a third.
Hello.
There he is.
Julius. Julius.
I hate this. I hate this glare. It's not the best, but the wings. Okay. Hello.
Kind of like Philo or Guns or something.
Yes. Yeah. I get that a lot. That's probably my favorite comparison.
Yeah. Julius, how about you end it off? You never ended it off. Marty has.
Yeah, my turn to take the spotlight. Oh, fine. Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure having you here. Check out these guys on social media. They're all fantastic. We're coming up on our first anniversary very soon. Yep.
Not saying who we have, but
not
we got
saying
big guests.
let's just say we got some big stuff coming for our first anniversary in July. It's going to be big.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you, folks, for joining us. Please be sure to check us out on social media, for the podcast and us in general. As we said, we got some big stuff coming for our first anniversary, so stay tuned. It's going to be big. And yes,
you're worth it. Stay nostalgic.
You're worth it.
Yes.
Stay nostalgic. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks
for joining us.
Nostalgic, you're worth it. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 See you next time on another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Be sure to follow us on social media and stream us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Bye bye.